finished chapter 1, and in the first section, if everybody's looking on their page, on page E39, we saw that we were talking about living things and the environment. Nayeli, what kind of things were we learning in this section?
It's about ecosystem.
About ecosystems, and what did we learn about the ecosystems? What were we learning about in there, Myra? What were we learning about, David?
We were learning about how the animals live in their habitat, and they interact with their species and population.
Right, so we were basically talking about what makes up an ecosystem, because we were learning about ecology. If you're going to learn about ecology, you have to understand what an ecosystem is, and we learned some of the terms that went with it. Then when we moved from there, we went to studying populations. Well, now that you know what an ecosystem is and what makes up an ecosystem, what did they teach us there? How we do what? How we what? What do we do? What did we learn how to do there? In that section. What did we learn down here?
There are estimates by direct and indirect observations.
Right, but what was that helping us do?
Other population changes.
That's right. We were going to study the populations and see how they change. And we learned that some of the factors that would affect how population change, what would they be, Jorge? What are some of the things that affect how population changes?
By changing their animal habitat.
Well, that too, but what about some of the terminology we learned? Huh?
The limiting factors?
We learned about limiting factors and how that can affect if an animal lives or not. We learned about birth rate, death rate, immigration, and emigration. So we went from learning what makes an ecosystem to learning how you study an ecosystem by looking at the populations. And in the last section, what did we learn about?
Next section.
What did we learn in the last section?
Oh. About economic and like nowhere in this here.
Yeah, what did we learn the one we just finished?
How they live.
How they live together.
And how
So
they
you see how the
react.
author was taking this? If we're going to study ecology, you need to know what that is, and that we study ecosystems. Well, what's in an ecosystem? How do I study an ecosystem? Well, because I know what it is. And now that we know it's a combination of all these living and non-living things together, we need to know what causes the numbers to go up and go down. How does it affect how many we have of them, right? And when we know that, well, what causes them to what kind of relationships do they have with each other? Remember, we have mutualistic, commensalism, we have all kinds of different predatory, we have different relationships that help keep the balance of the populations. Okay, so now, here's my question to you. We are now moving on in the study of ecology. So we've learned that we have animals that live together, and they have relationships, because we know that when ants go in the ground, they actually make air so that the air can go in the soil, which then allows the plants to grow, which allows other animals to eat the plants, and the sun from the sun from the sky comes down, and the process of photosynthesis makes the energy available. So we know all of it's related. So when that sun is coming down, what do you think we're going to talk about? Where does all our energy come from?
The sun.
The sun. Now, do we just sit there and get energy from the sun by standing out there? No. What do we have to do? Do I photosynthesize? Who photosynthesizes?
The plant.
The plants. And then how do I get that energy?
By eating the plant.
By eating the plant or eating... Who else could I eat to get the energy?
The animal.
The animal that ate the plant. Exactly. So we're going to move now to the transfer of what? What was I getting?
Energy.
The sun's... Good for you, Raul. We're going to get the energy. So now the next thing we got to know, because remember, we were talking about the relationships in the ecosystem. And they're all about helping each other survive. And what does that mean? Helping them have enough to keep alive. Well, to keep alive, you have to eat. And the reason you're going to eat is because you need energy and various vitamins and minerals, right? Well, how in the world do we get that energy through the whole system? That's what we're going to study next, okay? The flow of the energy in an ecosystem. And we're going to study things called food webs and food chains, okay? So the things we're going to learn are, okay, Myra, can you read the first one?
Describe the energy roles of organisms in the ecosystem.
Okay, so we're going to describe, remember how we learned about in an ecosystem, there's a species, there's a population, and a community, because they have levels of hierarchy, right? We're going to learn the roles that each of them play. And then, Danny, can you read this one for me?
Okay. Can you oh, thank you.
Where are you at? Describe.
Describe how much energy is available at each level of an energy pyramid.
Very good. So first of all, we're going to learn what an energy pyramid, and what that means is so there's going to be changes in the amount of energy as it passes along, okay? So we're going to learn about that. And the last one, David, can you read that one for us?
Explain the difference between the food web and the food chain.
Okay, we're going to actually look at, because one of them is more like a model, and one is more like what's really happening. But we'll be looking at that and discussing the differences, okay? So, we're now going to go to page 44 and start section 2-1. Thank you very much.